So, just to bring everyone to the same page, in the Burning Crusade expansion, rogues can become invulnerable to all melee attacks by using the dodge, parry, and reduced enemy chance to miss stats, making them one of the best tanks in the game in terms of raw damage mitigation. But they have horrible threat output, and this technique requires a very extreme gearing method. So, back in 2008, some people speculated that the barrier to entry could be lowered if one were to rely on temporary dodge buffs like Ghostly Strike and Mongoose Enchant, with Cheat Death to provide a safety net if you mess up the timing. However, by that point in time, most rogue tanks were already geared, or could use catch-up gear to get to the required 101.8% chance to avoid attacks from an enemy boss. It was at this point that they were already optimizing for maximum threat, because any more than 101.8% avoidance was useless, so they were dumping certain pieces of gear to get more damage onto the target. But because one of the biggest problems of the rogue tank was threat, perhaps going to temporary dodge would permit gearing even further in the threat direction? Getting to 101.8% requires massive sacrifices in the threat department, as you're forced to not just stack up agility, but also the far worse stats of dodge and parry rating. Cutting down to 94.3% avoidance would open up a ton of gearing potential. Mongoose Enchant procs grant 7.5% dodge alone, so instead of needing 101.8% avoidance, you can instead get 94.3%. Yes, I know that you're losing out on the Greater Agility enchant by instead enchanting Mongoose, but Greater Agility is only worth 2.5% dodge when on both weapons. So how reliable is Mongoose? Well, Mongoose procs once per minute on average, so it would have a 2 to 5% chance on hit for most rogue weapons. When dual wielding and attack speed buffs and melee haste and rogue abilities are taken into account, you can easily get this to proc 4 times a minute on average or more. And with a duration of 15 seconds per proc, that's almost 100% uptime if you're lucky. Not to mention, in rough RNG patches, you almost always have Ghostly Strike ready to go due to its low cooldown. And in the most extreme circumstances of not proccing, you can run a rotation of Ghostly Strike, Badge of Tenacity, Ghostly Strike, Evasion, Ghostly Strike, Charm of Alacrity, Prep, Evasion, Ghostly Strike, which is
88
seconds of maximum avoidance while using pre-raid trinkets. And then you've got to ask yourself how lucky you feel, and whether that offhand might be better off with a Greater Agility enchant instead of another Mongoose. So that's the question. Is this a worthwhile direction to go in? I don't have the answer yet myself, but perhaps we can get some conversation going to see if we can all have a better go at rogue tanking when classic TBC comes around, especially with the current stigma.
When it comes to class choice, when it comes to class popularity, what will guilds recruit, what will be in demand, what won't be in demand. The one thing I really want to emphasize here is for people that want to play rogues and want to raid, just don't.